How are you? We finally meet.
Yeah, how are you? I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, what's your day been like? You're in where? Halifax? Are you in Halifax?
I'm in Nova Scotia, I'm in Trenton, which is Pictou County, which is like an hour and a half away from Halifax.
Okay, all right. But on the East Coast, so you're
Yeah.
like way ahead of me. I'm in BC for sure. Anyway, so you having a good day?
Yeah, I had a tennis tournament first thing this morning, and
Exciting. How did you
yeah,
do?
I came first place.
Oh, as he says shyly, well, I just sort of came first.
And then I have a baseball practice tonight, so
Oh, fun. So you're
yeah.
busy bee.
Yeah.
Busy. Yeah.
So yeah, basically I'm just gonna ask you a few questions, and
Got
anything
it.
that you
I'm
want to say
ready.
about yourself, go ahead.
All right, you start off.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm interviewing Lorna Schultz Nicholson, who wrote all of these amazing books like Taking the Ice, which I reviewed, and all of the Puckster series, which I really enjoyed, and also the PK Subban and Mitch Marner books. So is there anything that you would like to say about yourself?
Well, I have to say that I absolutely love writing, and I love writing about all kinds of different things. I do write a lot of hockey books, but I have a lot of other books that aren't hockey as well. So I like writing those too, and I like the process. I like the process of putting books together, and I think this is a very special interview because this is the first time I've been interviewed by one of my true readers instead of, somebody, an adult in a podcast or something. So this is very exciting for me as well.
Yeah, so it's very exciting for me as well to just get to meet you, and also I love your books, so great job writing those. When you mentioned how you wrote a lot of hockey books, is hockey your favorite topic to write about? And if so, why?
I'm not going to say it's my favorite topic to write about. I write about a lot of things. Hockey just happens to be something that I know a lot about. So when I'm encouraging writers, like young writers, to write, I often say, write what you know, because that can be important. It is something I know a lot about. I've watched a lot of games. My son played. It's just something that comes, and I don't want to say it comes easy to me, because every story has to have like its identity as well beyond the hockey. And that's really important too, that I use it as a framework. It's used as a vehicle framework. Does that make any sense? Like in Taking the Ice, it's not so much, it's about hockey, but it's also about Aiden. You read about Aiden, like his character and who he is, and how he's kind of shy, and how he suffers from a bit of anxiety. And then there's Ned, who is a friend of his, and how you can be friends with somebody who maybe is a little different than you. That doesn't matter, right? He still was a friend of Ned's, and they still encouraged each other to be better people. So I think that that's also part and parcel of it all, but the hockey just gets used as a vehicle.
So two of your favorite books, or that I've read so far, are Mitch Marner and the PK Subban books. How long did it take you to kind of research all the facts about them to be able to put it into a book?
I watch a lot of videos. I watch a ton of videos. I'm always online watching like their goals and all that sort of stuff. And that's called the Amazing Hockey Story series. And what I like about that is that I don't just pick the best, although I started off with Connor. So my very first book was on Connor McDavid. And when I wrote it, I think it was, I'm probably going to get this wrong, 2017 or 2018 when it was published. Yeah, maybe even 2016, 2017, anyway. And he was very young then. So he's done so much since then. But I always pick somebody who has something else beyond just their hockey. So for Mitch Marner, he has his Marner Assist Fund, which I really, really like. And I think it's really valuable that he's out there raising money for, kids up in Indigenous communities, for a sheet of ice somewhere. I like that. And of course, PK Subban also was very instrumental in the Montreal Hospital, Children's Hospital. So I tend to pick players who have also done something else, and they have a bit of a story. So obviously PK you know, the racial comments that he might have had when he was young. And Mitch was always told he was too small, too small, too small, too small. And I liked his perseverance and determination. And the next one coming out in that series is going to be out in the fall. It's on Carey Price. And so that was really fun to write as well, because of he had such a different upbringing and a different way to get into hockey. So all the athletes are somebody who is a really good hockey player, but they have something beyond being a good hockey player. So they're fun to write. But back to your question about the research, yes, I have to research pretty heavily, and I'm not a stats person, so I have to really go back over and over and over the stats of, you know, did they really score that many goals? How many goals did they score in that year? And I have to put all of that in. So I do a lot of research, and as I said, I watch a lot of videos because I need to know where they come from, right? Like if they score a goal and I say that it, you know, I scored a great goal and I say it's on a breakaway and it wasn't on a breakaway, it was a scrum in front of the net, I'm wrong, right? So I have to make sure that I know what I'm talking about in that. And those actually have the illustrations. You like the illustrations in those, the fun graphics?
Yeah, I really enjoyed them, and like
yeah,
I
they're
how it was,
fun,
like,
right?
comic style, yeah.
They're so fun. And D.A. Bishop, who is the cartoonist, the graphic artist for it, does a really, really great job. And so what happens is I have to write the script for him. And so again, I have to be very specific if they're in their, let's say it was PK, is he in his yellow jersey or the black jersey? Or, you know, if it's Mitch, is he in the white jersey, the blue jersey, what jersey? Also the game time and who has what number on their jersey and who he's passing to. So I have to be very specific for D.A. Bishop so that he has an idea of what exactly the story is about when he's writing it. And then of course he adds his flavor, and it's so awesome because he does some stuff that I just think, oh, that works so well. I really like that. Like, you know, he'll add something really cool in there, which is really fun.
So you mentioned the Amazing Hockey series. Do you think that you would consider writing books like the amazing different types of sports and make that a series?
Yeah, you know, that would be fun to do. That's with Scholastic Canada. So that, of course, if I pitched it, it would be up to Scholastic to be able to decide whether they wanted that sport to be something in their amazing series, right? So far, we've focused on hockey, and I did one on Haley Wickenheiser, and we're, you know, we have another female in the works. Hopefully, like I'd like to write about another female again. That's a good question, but that would be probably up to them. I mean, I think a amazing soccer series would be really good because we have such great soccer players now in Canada and all over the world. Like that would be a good one. So yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
So I really liked in Taking the Ice kind of the role that Aiden played. Do you think that Aiden was kind of based off of anybody that you know, or just something that you kind of like made up in your mind?
You know, he's based a little tiny little bit off my daughter, and hope she's not listening right now. But when she was young, we had a move, and she was devastated with this move. She cried for days. She was super upset. Can I go back to my old school? And so I kind of put that in a little bit because he has to move and he's not happy. I mean, he's older than she was, so he has a different take on it. But, you know, kids do have to move sometimes, and it's not the easiest thing to do to end up in a new school. And especially coming from like Florida to small town Alberta, you know, there's such a difference. He has to ride a bus and he has to try out for this new hockey team and he has to do all of these things. And I think I wanted to focus on a player who wasn't that player who was, you know, the look at me, I'm this player. I just wanted this quiet kid to show quiet leadership too. And I thought that that was important because Aiden becomes a leader because of how he acts, not because of his great hockey skills, but because he's kind to other players. He's kind to Ned. He listens to the coaches and he tries hard. And that's what I wanted to show the reader, is that being a good leader doesn't necessarily mean you have to be the best. You can just be a leader by being a kind person. And I think that was the most important thing of this, one of the most important things of the story.
So another kind of series of yours that I really enjoyed were the Puckster series.
fun.
Were the characters kind of based on anyone in there, or were they just kind of good hockey players mixed into like
They were
animals?
based on the teams that Hockey Canada has. So I really looked at who their teams. So I looked at, having a team with a coach, which is Puckster kind of, and I toyed with animals versus real humans, like Puckster playing with real kids. And then I decided to go the animal route. That took a while to think about that. And then I went with the animal route. I really wanted to include the female hockey program, the women's hockey program, and I really wanted to include the paraplegic program. Thus, we have Manny the moose in a sled. And then I thought it was important to sort of look at just different personalities of people. So Little, also we have a great big bear, and then we have little Charlie, who's always, getting into trouble, little Charlie. And so I wanted to incorporate the fact that in minor hockey, kids can play if they're big, kids can play if they're small. You don't have to be one size. You don't have to be a boy versus a girl. You can be whoever you want to be, a they, if you want to be, you can play hockey too. So anybody can play hockey, and that's what I think I was driving home with that series. And then, of course, I brought in Juan in one of the books, the new teammate, and I wanted to show that, if we have immigrants in the country, that there are ways to play hockey. You can play hockey because you can get borrowed equipment. You can get secondhand equipment, which is what Juan does, and that it's okay if you don't know how to skate, because you can learn. And you can learn, and it's okay, right? So I wanted to sort of bring that in too. So that was kind of the gist behind all those stories, was more or less who plays hockey in our country, and I just wanted to make it very inclusive.
So you said that you, like at the start, that you really enjoyed writing. As a kid, do you think writing was one of your favorite things in school, or did that kind of just come as you were getting older?
I loved writing when I was a kid. I did love writing when I was a kid, and I wrote stories. In fact, I think I wrote my very first story that I tried to get published when I was 12, because I went to the summer camp and I loved it and I thought it was fabulous. I came home, wrote a story, and then I sent the story off, and they sent me a letter back that says, we don't want your story, so I didn't get the story. I liked to write when I was a kid, and I loved reading. I was like you. I loved to read. I loved reading all kinds of books. There weren't as many books, so I read all the Hardy Boys. I read all the Nancy Drews, all the Trixie Beldens, all the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, that whole series. There were so many other series that I read. So I read Anna Green Gables was one of my favorites. I read tons of books when I was a kid, and I loved reading. And so I loved writing, but then I kind of got out of it. I got into being an athlete and and then going to university and getting a science degree. So I didn't write as much. And then it kind of came a little full circle. After I had my children, I started really writing again. And I remembered how much I loved it as a child, and sort of left it partway through. Although I was the kind of person in university who would write stories instead of like the essay that I was asked for. And sometimes I got, this was really great. And sometimes I got, this wasn't what we asked for. So I was always writing stories, always, but I didn't kind of make it a full-time career path until my children were born.
So you mentioned how much you love reading. Do you find that you enjoy to read the books that you've published, or do you find you kind of just like to read new books?
I like to read new books. I don't think, it's very rare. I never sit down and read my book when it's published. I might pick it up and I might, like, I've got Taking the Ice right here. I might read a couple things, and especially if I'm doing a school visit or I have a camp or something and I'm required to do a reading, then I will read over what I've written, and I'll just to prepare myself. But to actually sit down and read it cover to cover, I'm too afraid I'm going to find a mistake. Like something that I'm going to go, oh, why didn't I change that? I should have changed that. Or, oh, I don't know. I looked at that in the edits and then I didn't change it and I should have. I don't want to do that, right? And the other thing is, once a book is finished, and I got this from Kevin Sylvester, because he's a great author, illustrator. I don't know if you've read his books, but he's great. And we did a bunch of school visits this year together. And one of them, he said something that made a ton of sense to me. And it was like, once the book is finished, he said, I hand it over. And then it's not really my book anymore. It's the reader's book. So that is something too. And I thought about that, and I thought that's so true. We do kind of finish them, and then they go out and it's like, okay, this is your book now. This is for you to read and this is for you. So I'm going to move on to something else. So I never read cover to cover my stories ever, ever.
So what do you think your favorite thing about writing actually is? Like you mentioned how much you love it, but what's your favorite part about it?
These are really good questions. You are really doing a great job here. I love this. What is, I love getting immersed in the story. And this was a conversation that Eric Walters, and there was a couple of us on Twitter that were having about what we loved about writing. And I love the process of it. I love sitting down, thinking of the stories. In fact, I have a new novel that's going to be about Tree from this story. I haven't written it yet, but I've done an outline, and I talked with my editor the other day, and we were talking about his story arc and talking about all kinds of things for his story. So I'm really excited to get into the story and just get immersed in this character and how he grows throughout the story. What does he want in the beginning of the story? What does he get in the end of the story? And then the dialogue between him and his friends. I love how when you're writing, a writer just sees the scene. The scene is sitting right there in your mind. I can hear the voices. I can just visualize everything that's going on with that character. And when you're in that moment and you're on the typewriter and you're just writing and you're thinking about that, that's a part that I really, really love. And I do enjoy the research part as well. Trying things to figure out, okay, is this how my character does this? Is this how my character would do that? But I think it's the actual sitting down and getting that first draft out on paper where you're really, really thinking about characters and plot and what's going to happen next and that kind of stuff. So that's probably the part that I enjoy the most.
So yeah, when that book comes out, I would definitely.
And one more thing, and the second draft and the drafts after that, because kids will write and then they don't want to do any more. But I just want to tell you, if you're writing a story, the best part is the next draft, because then you get to really delve into like their character, who they are, what they're doing, and get deeper into emotions and all that kind of stuff. So that's a fun part too.
Yeah, and when your book about Tree does come out, I would love to read it, and I would love to read you that as well.
I would love you to read it.
And just like a question about that book, when it's during like the time frame that's in, will that be kind of happening while this, like during the time frame that Taking the Ice takes place? Like, will you be talking to Aiden like?
Yes, it's almost a continuation. It's almost a little continuation, and Aiden will appear. He will appear. Whether he's a main character or not, probably not a main character, but he definitely will appear in the story, and he'll be on his team for some parts of it.
So yeah, it was really fun talking to you.
So that's exciting.
Yeah,
I can't wait to read it.
Is there any kind of like tips that you have for anybody that wants to be an author, or anybody that's kind of already an author but needs some tips?
Wants some help? I would say, okay, my biggest tip is, okay, number one, be a reader. If you want to be a writer, be a reader, because that helps you. It doesn't matter what you read. It helps you with the language. It helps you with seeing how sentences can be formed, or how rules, how rules can be broken, but you have to know the rules to break the rules. So like whether it's a fragmented sentence, but just read because it gives you flow and it gives you plotting and pacing and all of that. So that's a really big component. As soon as somebody says they're not a reader and they want to be a writer, I always think, okay, that's interesting. That's one of my biggest things. The other thing is just get the words down on the paper. Get the story, get the words down on the paper. Don't worry about that first draft being perfect, because it never, ever is. It never is. As I said, that second edit is really valuable. That third edit, that fourth edit, that fifth edit, that sixth edit, they're all really important to the story as well, because once you get the skeleton and kind of the bones done on that first draft, that's important too. And for many people, finish your story, because lots of people, and the brain does a really weird thing. You get halfway through a story and then the brain says to you, this is not very good. Nobody's going to read this. Why am I continuing to write it? And then the brain does this other thing that says, oh, I've got a really great idea for you. And you think, oh, what's the new idea? And then you don't finish the story because you move on to another story. So if you can finish, then you have a product to work with. But if you don't finish, then you don't have a product to work with. And so I always encourage people to finish. And if you're struggling to get finished, I have a friend who does this. She'll write the last chapter and then she'll fill it back in. So that's just a little strategy on how to finish, because sometimes it's hard to get to that finish line. And if you can figure out what your finish line is, like you can say to yourself, okay, this is where I want it to end, then you're more apt to get to that finish line. It's like running a race, right? If you don't know where the finish line is, you kind of, oh, this is so hard. I don't want to do this anymore, right? It's like you play games all the time. You said you played tennis this morning and won. Like, but if you don't know that you have to play so many sets in tennis, you're not going to finish, because you're going to say, well, how much more do we have to do, right? I don't want to, like, I'm getting tired. But if you know, oh, there's only one more set left, then you're good, right? And it's the same as baseball, right? Everything that you do, like, if you can get to that point where you can see the finish line, then you'll get there. And that's important too, I think, like knowing what an ending of a story is. So that's probably like 3 good tips, right?
So yeah, thank you so much for your time. It was really fun talking to you. Yeah.
Great questions. I'm really excited about this. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your show, onto your podcast.
Thank you.
Very exciting. I'm glad we finally connected.
Yeah.